Under the Hilux, we need to figure out how to go about draining the fluid. One way is either releasing this bottom radiator hose. Another way is using a little like pitcock or like a valve kind of thing you can open up and it releases all the water. And luckily on the Hilux, makes it a little bit easier and cleaner, is there's that little knob here. So I can turn this, which will drain the fluid straight out the bottom, and if it is coolant, especially if it's concentrated coolant, I can contain this a lot easier, because when you just drop this hose off, it makes quite a mess. It sprays out both like east to west, like so left to right and forward to backwards. It just goes everywhere, and it's really hard to contain in a bucket. So we'll open up this little cap and release all the water out of there. This top hose on the radiator, you can actually hear it. When I squeeze on it, it's actually like crunchy, which means there's obviously like rust in the whole thing. So if you have a listen, it was worse, was louder, but I've got it. You can hear it if I put this cap back on. You can hear it in here, and that's all just rust down in there, going straight on top of the thermostat. So I'm going to pull this top hose off and try and clean it out. Spray some water in there, try and clean the top of the thermostat off. Hopefully it's working still, so it'll be currently I think closed, and that'll mean that all the stuff will just flow down onto the ground. While I'm pulling this hose off, I can actually see it around this top hose shaft or whatever, which is actually part of the radiator. I can see all the rust and it's going all over my hands. So while I pull it off, I'm going to video that, because you get to see all the that comes out of it. You can see the colour of that, and I've rinsed that with water, rinsed the whole radiator out with water as well, so that bottom hose is already undone, so I can just hopefully drain all that down into there. Get that off. And it's full of rust all around the inside. Better clean it out. With the top hose, I just got my drill in there a bit, did around the edge where it sits against the like top hose on the radiator. I'm hoping that when I put the radiator flush in, it'll clean out the rest of it that's in the middle, that it obviously can't get to. So I'll put that back on, and then we'll put the radiator flush through, do all that process, and go from there. With this top radiator hose on the actual radiator, it's got like a surface rust all over it, so I'm going to try and clean that up, and I might put a little bit of WD on it or something to be able to just try and prevent it from rusting. Obviously the coolant will help me out as well. If there's, it'll keep it all covered and protected, so I'll clean all that up first and then put it back on, run our radiator flush. I got as much as I could off the top with the drill, like a wire wheel on the drill. Now I'll get a bit of sandpaper and get in all underneath. Nice gritty sandpaper. It's all cleaned up, nice and almost bare metal. I'll put a bit of WD-40 on there, and that'll prevent it from rusting again, going bad. I did get a little bit of the radiator here, so once I've got the hose on, I'll tape up a bit there and put a bit of black paint back on the top of this. All I just used was this wire wheel on the drill and a little bit of 60 grit sandpaper. Just did that by hand, and this is also wet and dry sandpaper, so it's better when it's wet, because it gets a lot more off. Simple little things like this bottom top radiator hose not being straight when it's cut. You can see where the clamp was, and it's not straight along there, so when it sits along the straight radiator it butts up like that or something. Those kind of things annoy me, so I've just got the standing knife here and I'm just going to cut it up and straighten it all up. Obviously these are sharp, so you want to be really careful when you cut this sort of stuff, and providing you've got a sharp Stanley knife, it should be relatively easy to get through. And Stanley knives must be blunt. I think this hose has got a material through the middle of it, so it makes it even harder. But we'll get there. It's a bit better. We'll see how it goes, but that's the kind of stuff that I've taken off. Heaps better. The process for the radiator flush is that we put all of this to a 15 litre radiator reservoir, so the capacity is over 15 or up to 15 litres. Mine's only 10.5, so I need to put 300 ml of this bottle into the radiator with just normal water, so we're not wasting coolant, and start the car, run it for so long, and it's all printed on the back of the bottle, so we'll do that and warm everything up, and then hopefully we're going to make sure the thermostat opens because there's all the water inside the block and stuff like that, so we'll get onto that. So trying to film all this in between all the rain that we've had in the last 2 weeks has made it quite hard, but we're going to put the radiator flush in, and I'm going to need about 300 mils of this in the radiator because it's for a 15 litre radiator with the full bottle. I'm just using 300 of the 375 mils. Then we're going to start the car, run it for 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll be able to flush it all out, and hopefully we get all the rust and everything out of the radiator. So let's put some in the radiator here. I'm just going to guess how much the 375 mil is. I took some of the fluid out already. I just opened the bottom pit cock. It's still sprinkling here at the moment. And thundering. I reckon that'll do. Now we'll warm the engine up, let it run for 10 minutes, and then we'll dump it all out. With the car sitting here idling, we have to turn everything on. So we'll go fan on high, all the way over to hot, and then we'll just let it sit and run, because that's got to open the thermostat and let all the fluid through there, and also the heater tap. So I'm just going to let it run for 10 minutes. I'll keep a timer and then we'll check it again, check the fluid. Yes, see what it's like then. Alright, back in a sec. The car's been running for 10 minutes. This heater gauge is, you can't really see it very well, but it's halfway. It just means that the engine's warm and it's, you know, sitting at the right temperature still, even with that radiator flushing it, which is good. I can assume the hotter you get it, the better, but it's also dangerous for the engine. So we'll turn it off and then we'll drain it off, drain the radiator out after it's had time to cool down, because if you touch that water now it's going to be way too hot, especially considering the boiling point of water, which is like 100 degrees Celsius. You know, this might show it's this hot, but it could be a lot hotter in the radiator compared to usual coolant and stuff like that. So let's drain the radiator out. I just want to make a point of never opening the radiator cap while it's hot. At least give it 15 to half an hour, because that, you know, it's got a pressure spring inside it, which then once it's cool enough it releases your fluid into your coolant, like your overflow over here. But yeah, it's very dangerous to take this off while the car's still warm. Just wanted to point that out to you guys. Don't want anyone getting hurt or anything like that. After doing all the temperature and stuff, we've got to drain all the radiator coolant and all the radiator flush out. So what we'll do is just carefully, because I've waited for it to cool, but with this little petcock at the bottom here of the radiator, just slowly open it up, drain it into a bucket, so then we can dispose of all the fluid properly. You should find that your local recycling plant will get rid of this for free. So it's just drip it into a bucket. It doesn't feel too warm, so I might open the radiator cap slowly as well. Just make sure that it's still warm up here. Just be careful. Try and listen for the air to release. And you'll be able to hear that bottom. It'll start flowing quicker as well. Doesn't look very clean now. That was just water and radiator flush. So with the thermostat, if you aren't sure if your thermostat's working, in the workshop manual it says for the diesels that the thermostat opens between 86 and 90 degrees Celsius. So if you aren't sure if your thermostat's working, one way to check that is, once you've run the car for so long, if you feel this top hose here, if it's warm, it means your thermostat is working, because it's letting the all the fluid from the engine back into the radiator, vice versa. So if your top hose is warm, then that means that your thermostat's working. So I've drained all the fluid. Now we have to put demineralized water and coolant in. With the Hilux, it is a 50-50 mixture. I've got a 10 litre bottle of coolant, and it at 33%, which is pretty much the minimum percentage you can do, it'll make 15 litres. But I'm doing 50-50, so it's just 5 litres of demineralized water and 5 litres of coolant. So we'll put that in, and then we can pretty much be done with the whole cooling system and the coolant of the Hilux. So with the overflow bottle, if you've got any coolant or anything in there, a good way to empty that, which is like nice and quick, with a little bit of pressure on this hose, like sucking pressure, whether you use a turkey baster or a syringe or something like that, or if you're game enough, use your mouth. But if it's got cool in it, it's, you know, that's poisonous. So, but what you just use is gravity. I've actually just got water in there, so I'm just going to put a bit of pressure on here and block it off with my finger. And then if I put this down underneath the bottom of the overflow bottle and let it go, it won't do anything. Just with the gravity will start to suck all that fluid out of the overflow bottle. So it's a cool little trick. Because the overflow bottle's got the little hose which goes down into the bottom of it, wherever it can reach, you'll be able to get pretty much all of it. So that's that's pretty much all it can get. And there's only a little bit in the bottom of there. Now everything else is just all this yucky gunk. I'll clean this up before I drive the car next. I'll pull the whole bottle off and everything, get it all sorted. But let's top the radiator up. So I've got a funnel here because the coolant is corrosive, and I'll tip it in there, making sure they don't get anywhere. If you do get a spill, just make sure you got a rag on hand, because it can take off paint and everything. So just be careful, and we'll top it up, finish this off. That's it for the cooling system in the Hilux. I've topped up the radiator. Make sure you top up the overflow bottle, because otherwise your radiator won't have enough fluid in it. Keep an eye on it. Make sure your car doesn't overheat in the next few days when you're driving it around and stuff. Make sure you don't open the radiator cap while the car's hot. Give it that 15 minutes to half an hour for it to be able to cool down a bit, and then you'll be able to open it up and drain all your fluids out and stuff. That's it for this episode on the cooling system of the Hilux on Spanner in the Works. Thanks guys.